Hey everybody, this is Garrett from Big Road Adventure, and we're here today installing a flat tow harness for a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. It is a 2019 Wrangler. This harness will actually fit on any Jeep Wrangler JL and comes straight from Mopar, so it's a factory part. There was a couple other options we looked at. Cooltech has one that looked pretty nice, but it had a switch that switched it between RV tow mode and normal driving mode. We didn't want to have to deal with that. The downside of this harness is it is fairly complicated to install and requires taking apart a fair amount of the Jeep, which is what we're going to go over today. And the other downside is the instructions that came with it are pretty much straight from IKEA. No, all pictures and no words. So it's going to be quite an interesting adventure today, and hopefully we're going to wrap this up in one day. I don't know how long it's actually going to take, but we have the Jeep sitting over there and the top is off and it's ready to go, so let's get started. All right, so let's start with the box we got. We bought it from BAM Wholesale Parts. I've never heard of them in my life, but this was by far the best price, and there'll be a link below to how to get this price. Hopefully it's still available. Open the box, and it's a bunch of loose parts. So welcome to Mopar. There's no nice little package, but that's okay. Unfortunately, the directions, if you look at them, look exactly like I said. It's just IKEA, no words, and a lot of pages. So we're going to be here for a while. Oh, no, you're right, I'm wrong. There's some words right there. They actually put some words. Most of it's not in English, but that's just the way it is. So hopefully, let's see how many steps there are. To the back here, we have 59 steps to go through. So this is going to be a long day. I would suggest, if you are not mechanically inclined, have your dealer do it. I've seen people online said they've got it for like $750 installed. It cost me, I think, around $300 to purchase just this. So $400 or $500 if you're got the money, I would have your dealer do it. But if you're willing to do it, tag along and watch us put it together. So, pretty basic stuff here. A couple of harnesses. One thing to note, the harness for the actual RV is a proprietary harness. That the tow rope harness comes with it, so it actually connects into your 7-port connector at the other end, or I guess in this case a 6-port. So if you got a 6-port, that is a 7-port. So a 7-port on the side of your RV, you'll be good to go. This harness goes into the front of the Jeep. So you could possibly do this with the top on, but I don't know how easy that would be, so we just went ahead and removed it. And as you can see, the top is sitting here. We did watch an online video to do that. There'll be a link below to do it yourself. The one thing I will note is on the 4-door, we tried to pull it back a couple feet to put the window down. That was a mistake. We actually ended up putting a little scratch in on the one side because the top easily falls off to the side. So I wouldn't do that. I would go ahead and pick it up, leave the window up. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and set it down and then deal with it, because the window, as long as you got enough room, can stay up. It's not that big a deal. And make sure you put your bolts where they belong down in the place so you don't lose them, and you should be good. Okay, so the first step is to take these 3 bolts off your battery. This is the negative terminal, and it handles all power to the actual Jeep. And you'll need a 13mm socket and a 10mm socket to do this. Once those nuts are off, pull it off to the side. Go ahead and put the nuts back on so you don't lose them. All right, the next step is to remove the air filter cover. And with this, we're going to use an 8mm socket. All right, and because we're lazy, we're going to pull in our impact wrench and pull off the last 3 much faster. fourth one is hiding right down here. You'll also want to loosen the clamp that sits on the air filter. And the whole assembly should pop out. Bonus, you get to check your air filter. So while you're in there, pull it out. And ours looks pretty good because there's like 4,000 miles on this Jeep. So next step is to remove the air box. So we're back to a 10mm socket, and here's the bolt for that. So on the bottom of this is a rubber plunger that is a little tight. So make sure, we already did it, but you gotta pull on this hard and it'll come right out. So don't worry about pulling it. All these are is rubber plungers like that. So not a big deal. And it comes right out. Also, I'm using a little bin to keep the bolts. If you have loose bolts, either keep them in the piece they belong to, ideally, or put it in something so you don't lose them, because we got a lot to go. So the next step, you can actually handle this a couple different ways. The goal is to get this removed to allow you to get to a grommet that is up above. This also goes through to your glove compartment. They recommend in the directions to remove these 4 rivets and then pull your inner liner out. The downside of that is you need the rivets, and they provide the rivets for that method. And if you have but you need a rivet gun, and I can't find my rivet gun because we are moving and going full-time RV in a week, so don't know where it is. That was one option. Another option that I found online is to remove the entire fender. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now the risk with that is there's a bunch of white clips that hold the whole fender on, and when you pull it off, it seems pretty scary, and the chance is possible you have a chance to actually break those clips. So we bought, ahead of time, we bought 5 of those clips in case we broke a couple. Hopefully this is a good idea. We're gonna find out really soon. But the nice thing about taking the entire fender off is you get complete access to the inside. We're also installing a couple of lights on the front and back, so it'll be nice to handle our wiring very cleanly because everything will be removed. And then the next thing is this. We just bought this at Napa, but you can get this on Amazon, you can get these anywhere. And it's a simple plastic tool set for pulling all the plastic panels inside. And you need these because you don't want to scratch your paint, you don't want to scratch your plastic. Don't use a screwdriver. This was $7 at Napa, well worth your $7, and just keep it in your toolkit. So the first step is to remove 4 10mm bolts that are underneath the fender here. So one here, one right here, one in this hole here, so you kind of got to dig in there, and then one right here. So it's pretty obvious where that is. And then there's a push pin right at the very front that you can use your plastic tool to pull off. This is probably the same as a Sport or any other model, but this is specifically on my Rubicon. So we're going to start with this push pin that is way down here. And once we get that off, we're going to do the 4 10mm bolts. So before you take the fender off, you need to disconnect the turn signal cable, which is right here. First thing to do is pull the red tab out. Once that's out, you can press right underneath here and you should feel a little thing come in and it comes right out. So you can see that right here. You need to push underneath or it will not release. It's done, then you can pull the rest of the fender off. So as we pulled this off, we realized that there's actually a 5th bolt, even though the videos we watched showed only 4. This may be specific to a Rubicon, I don't know, but this is right here, number 5. So the next step, you'll want to take any of these plastic clips that actually stayed on the Jeep, you'll want to take them off. You'll see here I broke this one and I broke a different one in the front. So I had bought 5 and luckily we have only 2 broken. So depends how lucky you feel, but you should be able to take these off without too much problem, in theory. So they pop off. And like that, it shouldn't be too bad. Take the broken one, so pop it off. Notice I'm using my plastic tool. If it was metal, you'd be scratching your paint, and you do not want that. Final one. And see, he's intact. So I'll reuse him and throw this guy away. Now we have complete access to underneath here and the firewall, which we'll get to later. We're gonna have to fish wires through that, but now this is completely open, which is great. So the next step is to put in this wiring harness. This side goes toward the battery, and then this side goes out the front and behind the headlight, or actually underneath the headlight, to your bumper. And then you're going to have to put a connector on the end of this, and the reason they did that is so you can fish it through the first time. So we'll start by going through this bracket right here. Leave a little bit of slack here because you're going to want to tie this off on your ground over here. Then follow down here is a bracket that you're going to follow through and drop underneath to the frame and then go underneath your front grille to your bumper. The next step is to get underneath here and pull it through. You'll see it comes out here. You see it right here. If you have your fender off completely, this is super easy. But imagine if you had the liner off, it wouldn't be too bad. Go underneath your frame, and for us, this is where we ran our winch cable also, so we'll just follow that. In hindsight, we would have done this when we had our grill off, because it would have been even easier, but this isn't too bad. So you can see them poking through right here. Let's go ahead and grab all of them. Make sure you got slack on the other side. And nothing's getting hung up. It is a little bit. Grab them all and pull that through. So now you have this. The next step is you're going to take these and put them in your pin clip. So don't do what we did, and when I pushed this through, one of these guys got caught and bent back, and they're kind of cheap, and it broke off. What I would recommend is take a piece of tape and wrap it around this to make it tight, and then push that through so they don't break. So we're going to go ahead and solder this to fix it up. The next step is to attach the ground wire that is on the harness to the ground lug on your Jeep right here. 10mm wrench, socket. Go ahead and lock that lug nut in. Tighten it back up. Once you do that, you're going to want to take zip ties that are included with the kit. Attach here, here, and here to keep it secure from touching anything that's hot. Next step is removing this on the back of the Jeep for access to your tail light. Start with a plastic tool, get underneath and pop it, pretty simple. Then you'll find a T40 Torx first, and then a 10mm bolt underneath. If you don't have one of these, it's helpful to have. I happen to have a socket with a T40. Put that on there. So there's a strange little nylon piece with a spring. So once that Torx bolt is off, then this should come right off, and all you got to do is pull on it. Go ahead and take this connector. Taking this connector off, sometimes they're tricky and want to stick. The trick is to push really hard on this piece of plastic right here. So you push down, once the red's out obviously, so the red's got to be out. Push down on it, and then pull. And it should pop right open. Now we're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. Pop out. Go ahead and pull your tail light out again. Pop your red tab. Push hard on that, and it should pop out. Put this aside. So the next step is to take harness they call C, which has these control on the end, and then connector for the tail light, and the other connector for the tail light, and then you'll see a couple little connectors for the license plate, and then finally this routes all the way through to the passenger side to connect to the other tail light. So the first thing we're going to do is take these control units, and they gave us these special zip ties that have these clips on them. So we're going to take those and place that over here. Go ahead and lock that in. So it's on the side like that. Actually like that. And then pull it tight. And this should be able to lock right in to here like that. You can see that. So there's a clip here, and the clip should lock in, or it's not going anywhere. Now do the same for the second one. Now they should be locked and ready to go. Now start feeding the rest of the cabling through here behind your bumper. There's a fair amount of it, so maybe grab from the other end and drop it down. you can go ahead and connect your taillight connector. It goes like that. Make sure you push the red lock to lock in and push that down. This will be ready for your taillight on the left side. And then we're going to now work the cable underneath. So these connectors splice into your license plate light. For us, we actually have a custom license plate holder with our LOD bumpers, so we're going to splice this a little bit later. If you have a standard bumper, you'll need to find how to get into that bumper. You may have to take the bumper off. Some people have not had to take the bumper off, but you will have to connect this in to your license plate for the RV to be able to power the license plate. So the next step is we're going to run the cabling from the back of the Jeep to the front of the Jeep, and the directions say to take the fender well off and in the back. I don't want to do that, so we're going to do a different method. We are going to take the interior off. There's actually a good video online of doing this, but we'll go through it also here. So we have a subwoofer that we're going to have to remove, as well as these plates, this piece of plastic right here, and then this entire thing should pop off. Once we get in there, then we'll move our way up to the front of the Jeep. Let's start by taking this off. It just slides out. These guys here have pops right here. You pop them. And they have Torx 40s. Okay, so the next steps are to take the seatbelt connector off, which then will make this available to take off, and this piece, and then we'll move to the front. Using our plastic tool again, there's 2 clips in here, so you got to get in. I'm going to use the side that actually gets in, and it pops right out. Go ahead and lift that out of the way. This should allow the big piece to come off. Actually, take your little door guy off, get him out of the way. Pull up this plastic piece, it comes off. And you'll see right here is a connector for the subwoofer. Should pop right out. And now you can take it off. Down here is one more pin you need to pop. Make sure you pull that, or you're going to rip the whole thing out. It's a little heavy because it has a subwoofer. So the next step is to pull this part out. You can grab the trim on the other side, and you should be able to just yank. Pops out like that. Next step is to pull this part of plastic out, and it should also come out with a good yank. So this piece here you have to pop out. We've already popped it, but you pop it like that, and it comes out. Now this should be loose to also come out. It's actually linked to the front piece, so those both need to come out together. So the next step is to remove the front trim, and to get to that you're going to have to remove this piece first. So you should be able to either pull on it and it pops right out. There's a little rubber thing attached to it you can just leave. And then your harness for the door is actually in here, and there is a 10mm bolt that holds everything together in here. So the next step is to remove this, pull the red clip up, and then stick a screwdriver underneath. And it should pop up and spin like that, and it should come right out. in theory. There we go. So it came out. You leave your door, you gotta take that off. So put the door in. Which frees up your ability to get to that bolt, which is holding on the front. Slide this connector down and it'll pop off, which then frees the panel to be removed. Now the panel's off. The next step is to remove the glove compartment. Open it. The top has a little pop thing. Just pop the plastic. And then lift out. So next step is to run this guy through to the very front of the Jeep. First thing I did is I ran tape all over these connectors so they didn't bend or otherwise get messed up as we went through. Next step is to put it in the hole where your tail light is. And there's a grommet right here that you're going to have to pull back to get, and it's kind of gooey. You can push it and try not to make too big of a hole in it so it stays watertight. So I'm taking this grommet and I'm going to actually put a small slit in it with this knife. To make it easier to handle the wire. Once you have that slit, it then comes through pretty easy. Feed it all through. Until you get to the very end, and same as you did on the other side, you're now going to use that special clip to attach this to the side, and then these are your connectors for your taillights. So the plug from the driver's side has to go thread through here underneath your bumper on the passenger side. And you may be a little different depending if you have a stock bumper or a different bumper, but this is an LOD bumper, and what I'm doing is feeling for the cable that should be above here. So starting right here, because we have the tow package, we have the existing cable here, I'm going to run that new cable across to this and then zip tie it going all the way across to the other side and then up to the tail light on the passenger side. So we've pulled this cable through underneath, zip tying everything by the muffler, making sure it's away from the muffler so it doesn't get burnt, and then it ties into your harness that's going up front. So it simply clicks together. Now that we have this connected, we're going to connect him out of the way of this, because this moves back and forth with your tailgate. So you want to make sure all the cabling, we'll zip tie everything up later, is completely out of the way. So I'm going to take him, pull my guy through a little bit more. We're going to go right about there. I got one of these clips. Push it on, bring it around. should be pretty tight in there. Now take the cable that was your original taillight cable, plug it into your harness, which just leaves one more left. This is for your taillight when you put that taillight back in. So that's left for your taillight. If you see everything's pretty much out of the way here, I'll probably put a zip tie just to keep it tight over here. But we're not ready to put this together yet, but that's pretty much done. So we're going to take the harness wire and run it along this existing cable harness and zip tie our way along. So keep going through here, past the carpet, down here, down the door, around. Up to the front. Make sure there's no twists in it. And it follows right along with the existing cables. So we're going to run it up the channel. And then up here to a grommet that we can't see yet. But it'll be up top here. We're going to go ahead and remove this piece here also with 10mm nuts and put the wire in with the existing harness. Now we've worked that bracket out, so we'll be able to run the new cable directly through here. All right, so the next step is to drive a hanger through the rubber grommet. It's up here, you can't really even see it. You got to feel for it, and you'll feel a big wire bundle already going through it, and then there's a little soft rubber piece underneath. I have cut off a hanger here. We'll go ahead and find it and push it through. It should come out to the passenger side footwell. So now we've attached the hanger to our wires, and you notice there's an extra wire here. We're actually running backup lights that are being installed on our bumper, so we're doing this at the same time, but you won't have those. Hopefully you survived getting this through the firewall, because that turned out to be a bigger bear than I even imagined. Part of the problem is going through that firewall, the bundle of wires going through there actually aren't jacketed. It's not a bundle. It actually is a rat's nest going through there. And as we push through the firewall, we caught other wires. So be very, very careful when you go through the firewall. Try to stay low and try not to hit any other wires, because there's a very good chance you're going to cause damage to other parts of the wiring of your Jeep. And it will be either very expensive for you or something that will take you a lot of time to disassemble everything around the battery and the fuse box to actually get to the firewall and repair whatever damage you may have done. So luckily we have done no damage. We've tested everything and so far so good. But now we are to the last step, and this is one of the most simple steps we've done so far. Right here are 4 fuses that will protect everything. And what they've done is they've put a box that you can see here that came from the front cables. And if you look at the diagram, which they actually did is spun it this way, and it's fairly simple but a little bit confusing what they did in the diagram. But all you're going to do is match up the brown, red, green, and black wires with the harness that came through your firewall, brown, black, red, and green colored. And then all you need to do is actually press them into here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Make sure I do that right. We'll start with the black. Remember correctly, it goes that way. Okay, that's the black one. Now we're going to work on the green one, which is at the bottom. And it will lock in place. The red one next to it. So as you can see, 3 colored ones are with 3 striped. And finally the brown over here. Now that's locked also. So now you have them all locked. And there was also the ground here. Make sure you put this ground on your grounding terminals over here. Now what has happened now, if you look in here, you now have 4 fusible points right there. Go ahead and put your fuses in those 4 spots, lock it up, attach your ground, and put everything back together, and you should be done with your installation. Except for the front harness, which for us, we're going to cut that and put our own custom harness in because we're using an invisibrake and we're tying that all together. So, good luck. So that's the end of our installation. Hopefully it goes as smooth for you as it did for us. It took us about a full day, and that included filming, so hopefully you should be done maybe half of a day. The front harness for us, we're going to actually cut that off and integrate that in with our invisibrake install, because we have an invisibrake and there's a monitor that has to go back through to the front, and the connector we have from Chrysler we didn't really like anyway, so we're putting a new one on. You may or may not choose to do that, but remember that's something you can do. Make sure you keep your colors and your signals straight for the brake lights and the tail lights. But that's it for us today, and have a great day. Thank you from Big Road Adventure.